Hello, I'm Sonya Douglass, Professor of Education Leadership in the Department of Organization and Leadership at Teachers College, Columbia University, and Founding Director of the Black Education Research Center.
Hi, my name is Michele Verdiner, and I'm the proud principal of Teachers College Community School. We are a university-assisted school and have a partnership with Teachers College. I have a school that is pre-K through 8, and it's located right here in District 5. I'm also a UELP student studying for my doctorate degree, and Dr. Douglass is one of my professors. Dr. Douglass, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because I know that you've been really giving so much energy towards this, and it's finally up and running. So I'm sure everyone's curious about, what is your dream and hope of bringing the Black Studies curriculum to schools?
Thank you, Michelle. It's great to be here with you as well and to talk about this very exciting curriculum that we're developing, or have developed actually, for New York City Public Schools. It's part of an award that we received from the New York City Council to fund the first ever PK-12 interdisciplinary Black Studies curriculum. And we have just been honored to be able to work with community-based organizations, with professional educators, and individuals like yourself to really, one, think about what we want our young people to know about Black history and culture and experience, and ensure that we're including the voices and the needs of our school communities into that curriculum. So we are now entering the third year of this project. We spent the first year, again, really assembling a team of experts who had content expertise both in Black studies as well as Black history and how to teach these subjects in ways that may be, outside of the traditional norm of how we deliver curriculum. This last year, we spent really revising the lessons that we had, again, getting direct feedback from teachers and principals as well as students. And we're excited this year to really implement the lessons that we do have and enter this final kind of refinement of the curriculum for the city. So it's been a really intense and exciting time given the history of the work that we're doing. And our hope is that the children of New York City, and by extension across the country, will be able to have access to a deeper and fuller understanding of the history of this country, because we're including a Black perspective, and that as a result of that, it will, I think, really improve cross-cultural understanding, I think a sense of confidence, particularly for students who identify as Black or African American, and really help us to begin to build the type of education that we know all children deserve.
Can we talk about just all the thought that went into creating this and the different stakeholders that you had just share their ideas to help create it?
Yes, it did take a really vast team, and it continues to take that team to get the curriculum to the point of implementation. As I mentioned, the project is known as the Education Equity Action Plan, and so it's actually a coalition of organizations, which includes Teachers College and the Black Education Research Center, the United Way of New York City, the Black Edfluencers United, the Association of Black Educators of New York, and so we have an Eagle Academy Foundation. So again, we have a cross-section of educators and community partners who have really pulled in, I would say, all of the resources and networks that we have to build a team to both develop the curriculum and then develop a professional learning plan, again, that will help train and build up teachers and leaders to develop it. Our advisory board at the Black Education Research Center, I would say, has been critical. They continue to be really active as board members, given their expertise in Black education. And so we have, elders really who have dedicated their lives to this work and have been instrumental in helping us to think about how we take that content and how we take the research that has informed Black education in effective ways and incorporate it into the curriculum. There was also the development of a Black Studies Commission. It's part of the EEAP work, which includes a cross-section of, again, community leaders, educators, and is even chaired by Malefi Asante, who is, really the one who's been integral in bringing Black studies as a discipline into K-12 education. And so it's taken all of these minds and ideas and perspectives to help bring this curriculum to bear. I would say there's not a consensus necessarily in terms of what Black studies is and what should be included. And so our attempt was just to learn as much as we could by drawing from the leaders in the field.
And I know that we piloted it 2 years ago across the 11 schools, if I'm not mistaken, between different districts. And I know we also incorporated families and had a component where we were sharing just our learnings together. And then we landed in District 5 with actually launching it. So can you just talk to us about maybe your learnings and experiences through that?
You don't want to do this type of work in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. Again, we have a lot of expertise and research at the higher education level, but that is limited in terms of really understanding how this will be delivered and really impact, teaching and learning. And so our partnership with your school, with the schools in District 5 have been, as well as District 29, in terms of it being expanded during year 2, has been invaluable, again, in making sure that we are grounding the work in the daily realities of teachers, in the daily needs of students and their families, and getting and really having you to guide us, right, in terms of telling us what your needs are and how we can help support, enhance, and in some instances maybe replace parts of the curriculum that might need enhancement. Teachers College, we're right here in Harlem. We're neighbors. The TC Community School obviously has, we're inherently connected through that partnership. So I think that was just a natural entry point, again, given the leadership of District 5's commitment to Black Studies. What we learned from our partnership from District 5 and what we are continuing to learn from the educators in the school communities there are going to not only impact the work that we do across New York City, but across the country. I mean, this is something that, again, has gained a lot of attention from educators given the political climate that we're in, the backlash against certain texts, the backlash against teaching race and certain aspects of our history. So while it is about this partnership in Harlem, again, I see it as being something that is going to really impact curriculum and pedagogy I said worldwide, but perhaps worldwide.
And I know that teachers were incorporated with our voice, but also just the rolling out of it. And there was a lot of thought that was put into our labs for the teachers. So could you talk a little bit about the design of that? Because I think it's important to highlight that teachers did have a voice in the curriculum, and you were open to our feedback.
So BERC, we developed a model that we're still really developing, but it's design labs, and it's a way of looking at curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment/evaluation holistically, recognizing that these pieces go together and that the research community and practitioners really need to do that work together. So as you mentioned, it's just been, I think, a really beautiful partnership that continues to develop in us being able to bring content, some of the research-based strategies that we know are important for culturally relevant education, and even tools and resources, right? Some of it might not be teachers needing to know how to teach it, but maybe just becoming familiar with some of the concepts in Black Studies. Again, the beautiful thing about Teachers College is I think we have that built in, right? Many of our students also are experienced educators, and those who are conducting research, want that work to inform practice and actually draw from practice to do their research. So this project, while it's focused on Black Studies, I think is emblematic of research practice partnerships and how we can work more collaboratively and cooperatively to benefit students. And so we see teachers as critical to that. I mean, many teachers spend more time, right, in front of students than even family members, given the way that the school day is structured. And so we want to use that time in ways that really benefit students and that they enjoy it. We want to also bring joy back into teaching and learning for both the students and educators.
As a principal, we were also incorporated into design labs, which was important because I think we had to do some learning as well around the curriculum, and then how we were able to brainstorm on the different ways to launch it, how to support it within our schools, how to make sure that we were meeting our benchmarks. So I think that's a nice piece to highlight as well of something that you were able to offer us.
Well, going along those lines, Michele, I'm really interested in just getting your perspective as a school leader. We know that school leaders hold or have a large responsibility in terms of managing your building, students, engaging with parents and families, as well as implementing policies, and that this is a really a challenging moment, I would say, in American education. But really interested in hearing your thoughts about the work that you've done with Black Studies and what that has been like for you as a school leader.
Well, I felt very privileged. I think that if we contextualize the time that we were rolling this out, this was right after the pandemic hit us, all the political unrest that was happening. And I just felt like the time is now. And I'm so proud that I'm in a New York City public school and being able to have a diverse, not only staff, but population of students to be able to just unveil this curriculum. It was difficult. There were a few challenges, more technical things like, how do we align it with the scope and sequence of our social studies curriculum? How do we roll out and make sure that our teachers are comfortable? Who do you choose to do it? Because there are comfort levels and there are also biases that we carry. Who has an open mindset to be able to learn and be vulnerable along with the children? In my school personally, at Teachers College Community School, we launched it in kindergarten, 4th, and 7th grade. So there's different grade bands there and different readiness levels, different developmental levels, and really being able to pick personnel who are willing to do it, but also responsive to the students, because that was something that was important to us. The teachers were on board, of the teachers that were selected. Our families were on board and very excited about the possibilities of learning. Kindergarten was amazing. They're like sponges, and they did the unit around symbolisms, which was great and so creative. And then with our 4th and 7th grade, and in particular our 7th grade, it definitely was a catalyst with our students. An example is when I was being evaluated, actually, my deputy superintendent met with my student council, and they brought up the curriculum themselves and were recalling how it made them feel, that they were happy to hear about a narrative of pride and to learn things other than that, and this particularly came from one of my students who was African American, about slavery, about other accomplishments that contributed to American history, and the experiences that they've been able to have through the curriculum. So that's been very empowering and very hopeful, and I'm hoping that this will catch on and move elsewhere outside of New York City as well, because it's very important for students to learn more about the African American narrative through a different perspective versus what they have learned traditionally, and also for other students to learn as well.
You mentioned hope. So what are some of the other things that you're hopeful about in terms of what this curriculum may accomplish?
In 7th grade, the students were encouraged to be like their own narrators and to write about their own stories. And so moving beyond it, empowering our students' voice, to see that they could be change agents, to see that they're valued in our community, to see that they have the power, that they can make a change, and to also see the power of literacy, that the power of the pen, and understanding what they bring, the value they bring, and that we really need them. So my hope is just for students to feel more valued, and I'm talking about all students, the diverse population that we have, because they are our future and we need them, and just see that they have power that's going to yield long-term effects.
It's a question that we would get quite a bit in developing a curriculum for a large school district of the size of New York City, which is very diverse. What does it mean to teach Black studies in what is a culturally diverse and pluralist community? And you referenced the diversity of your school. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of how you see Black studies in particular, and maybe even this whole process in terms of how, again, we're supporting teachers and preparing them to deliver it, but how do you see that benefiting the school community?
I personally feel like, yes, it's Black studies, but it's part of our American history, and it should be inclusive and not, this is something separate, and it should just be. It shouldn't stand alone. That's one thing. I think that, a big piece that I've learned through it is really around just some of the biases that we carry with us. It opens up a different kind of conversation with the adults that are actually teaching children. And I think that, it encourages us as school leaders to have a more inclusive community and be vulnerable with each other, because some things we don't know. Like you said, we're not the scholars. There's some pieces of information that we don't know because we've all kind of had a traditional upbringing in the educational system. And so we have to have a safe environment to say, we can be safe to say we don't know, and that we could learn together. And I think that just builds a culture of inclusivity.
Michele, you are a doctoral student here at Teachers College in the Urban Education Leaders Program,
Yes.
which is an executive EDD program for experienced leaders who want to make greater impact. And I just you were talking about even the impact of this curriculum work among your school community, and wanted to know more about those supports and the supports that you think are important for principals and leaders.
I think that you guys are doing it. It's around letting leaders know that we don't have to know everything, that we can plan together, that we have resources, and us just, again, being vulnerable and feel supported in it. And through UELP, I'm learning about making sure that we're bringing a critical approach. So my studies is one of the veins of it is really looking at school leaders that are working in schools that are high needs, and the resources that are there to support the leaders. So tying that back into the Black Studies curriculum, that's a component that was definitely there. You guys met with the school leaders. We were able to learn together, have a vulnerable space together, ask for help and feel supported and valued, and also just really having the common goal and inspiration to bring this back to our schools.
I think we both have these visions of what we think education should look like and can be. And so if you were to tell me, how would you envision your school, say, 5 or 10 years down the road after having implemented this curriculum for that period of time? What do you think, or what would you hope to see as a result of that?
Empowerment for my students and my staff and my community, but specifically for the students to see themselves in a more accurate way in history. For them to be able, and when I say them, I'm talking about, in particular, students of color, to see that all the contributions that African Americans have made in our country, but also I do have a diverse school for all students to learn about it together. But I hope that bringing in the Black Studies curriculum also opens up doors for other marginalized people to be able to bring their stories. All this hard work, and it's here. It's been being rolled out. What are your long-term hopes of the Black curriculum?
This is one project, but I see the effort as a mechanism for transforming our entire educational systems. Because to your point, it takes so many people and systems and organizations to be able to work together and think through what it is we're teaching students and what we want them to know. And so I feel like that exercise alone has been very educative for, again, not in terms of doing this for the students, but for us that are involved in the process. So from everyone on our research team, from all the curriculum writers and reviewers and all of the educators that we're working with, it's the intellectual work really around thinking about what students should have access to, what type of content, and then also thinking about how you deliver that. And to your point, recognizing your own biases, right, and any other limitations that we have around our knowledge. And given an area that, again, most of us are not trained in or taught, I think it's a very humbling experience, but one that allows us to be even more intentional and stronger in terms of our role as researchers and educators and practitioners and policymakers to a degree as well. So I think it's important to, again, acknowledge all of the different individuals and sectors that have allowed this project to be, but learning from that process of what it means to negotiate policies, to negotiate politics, again, put our minds together in ways and the knowledge that we have collaboratively to come up with a product that, we're all really proud of.
Well, I'm going to add on to that, New York City is the largest educational system in America, and we do have a lot of leverage and we have a lot of eyes on us. Mm-hmm. And I know that all school systems aren't created equally, unfortunately. Right. So I'm also hopeful that, so a lot of school systems look towards us about what's working and not working. And I'm hopeful that this is something that is working, and hopefully it can then transcend into other school districts.
And the other part that I really hope will help facilitate that is the framework that I developed called the SCALE framework for learning and liberation. And it really focuses on those components of self-knowledge. Does the curriculum help you to understand better who you are, where you come from? Mm-hmm. The multiple dimensions of oneself, biologically, physiologically, and using all of the different spiritually, right? Mm-hmm. And looking at all of the disciplines and the academic areas, and then also looking at the role of culture in schools. I mean, there's been so much discussion about culturally relevant education, and mm-hmm. New York has a really groundbreaking policy framework, around culturally responsive and sustaining education. And so what do we mean by culture? Mm-hmm. Whose culture do we teach? Which culture is the one that we should be, socializing our children into? And so mm-hmm. having, again, that discussion about the role of culture in education and schooling is really important. Agency, which you brought up, the sense of empowerment, recognizing mm-hmm. that you do have power, even though you may feel powerless at times. Mm-hmm. But that, a curriculum, again, that's celebrating individuals who look like you, and those that came before you can help to do that. And the absence of that has the opposite effect. Mm-hmm. The role of leadership, again, that we all, even if we don't feel compelled to lead or called to lead, that we should have a say in who represents us and what the expectations we have of our leaders. Mm-hmm. And then just the question of enduring values. What do we value? What do we care about? What are the things that, again, every child should have access to in terms of education? And at the Black Education Research Center, we really believe that every child should have access to, that education is a civil and human right. Mm-hmm. And so that's just part of what we're hoping to advance, again, through our curriculum work. That framework, again, as broad as it is, we hope can be applied in different contexts. So mm-hmm. no matter the community that you're in, because we acknowledge that New York City is very different, mm-hmm. and we don't expect that what we develop here can easily be transported in other places. But we think that the process that we use to engage communities, right, from the ground up is a model that works anywhere. And as long mm-hmm. as you're connecting with those individuals in schools, you can develop something that is valued by all of the members of the community.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, because it really has been an enlightening journey, and it has impacted my school community. We still are utilizing the curriculum. Of course, my teachers are asking, when are we getting more units? But I just want to thank you. I really was honored to be able to be part of the process. And very proud that we're able to execute it at our school.
Well, we thank you for your leadership, because we certainly couldn't do it without you.
Thank you.